What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Doctor Who review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 12th Doctor Peter Capaldi story, Time Heist. This is an episode from Series 8. Once again, we're watching another Series 8 Capaldi episode. It's what we picked out last time. So, yeah, interested to get into this one. Once again, it's another one of those episodes that I think doesn't really get talked about a whole lot, and generally I do think is quite underrated. So, I was definitely excited to kind of see what points I would jot down when actually thinking about this one in a more reviewing kind of way, instead of just, watching it. So yeah, let's get started. This is Time Heist. Alright, so we'll start with the cast. Of course, we've got Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor. And yeah, he's really quite good here. Still very much a kind of grumpy, miserable Doctor, but that is honestly the 12th Doctor throughout Series 8, and it's kind of the arc that they had him going for Series 8. And yeah, I like it. I like Peter Capaldi's more grumpy, not really grumpy, but just more stern. I think stern's the best way to put it. The way he does that Doctor. I think when he's a bit too goofy, it doesn't really work. He definitely is good at some of the funny stuff too, but I just really like the direction that they had the Doctor in this one. A little bit unhinged, doesn't really know what he is in a lot of ways, and I really like that. There are moments where I think it goes a little bit too far in this one, where the Doctor is a bit too rude, just like he was in Into the Dalek and throughout a lot of Series 8. But I mean, it's nothing to fault Capaldi's performance. He is brilliant as always. We've also got Jenna Coleman as Clara Oswald, who, yeah, once again, she's fine in this one. Yeah, she's actually decent in this one. There isn't really anything bad to say about Clara in this episode. She feels her purpose, she does her things, and yeah, is perfectly fine. The other two characters in the sidecast, whoever it is that plays Sai and Sabra as well, and also Miss Carabraxis, slash Penelope or whatever her name was, I can't remember, the main woman at the bank, other than Carabraxis. Yeah, she is fine as well. It's a very good guest cast altogether, and the main cast is also on top form. Alright, so now to the good and the bad, starting with the good. The Doctor, Clara, and two others being forced into robbing a bank. So there's a really interesting start to this episode. Starts off, the Doctor comes to Clara. He's like, she's like talking to her about stuff, and then all of a sudden the TARDIS phone rings. He picks up the phone, and all of a sudden, he's got one of those memory slugs, that we saw in like the Snowmen. Clara's first episode, not really, kind of her second episode, but not, and you know what I mean. We see the Doctor holding onto one of them, and then Clara's got one as well, and there's these other two people, and all of a sudden they're in this kind of conference room. And yeah, it's all a bit weird. We don't really know what's going on, and then they all get thrown into this thing. This guy starts talking to them about robbing a bank and saying that they all agree to do this, and it's kind of this mystery throughout the whole episode of, alright, so we've all agreed to rob this bank, however, we've also agreed for our memories to be wiped. Why is that the case? What is it that we're after here? And it does a really good job of kind of, unraveling all those mysteries and all those questions throughout the episode. I think it does that really well. The Teller, I think, is a pretty cool villain in design, but mainly in what it is, really, I suppose. It looks cool to start with, I think. I think it looks fairly unique. Yes, it is a humanoid-looking shaped thing, but I think it's pretty cool with its, two eyes. It's almost like a slug, but a human slug, I guess. But I really like it, and I love the way how it, it brings its eyes together to look at each other, like, like cross-eyed in a way, and, does the whole brain scanny thing. I think it's pretty cool, and generally I think the idea of the Teller is pretty cool. How they're using it for security at a bank. Anyone at the bank who has any guilt towards anything, whether it be they want to rob the bank, they're doing something illegal within the bank with money and stuff, it latches onto that guilt, and then it doesn't kill them, but it basically turns them, as the Doctor said, into soup. And I really like that, and I think it's a cool design, and it's utilised pretty well throughout this episode. Sai and Sabra have vital roles in the plot. Really happy about this, because a lot of the time we have guest characters and they don't really do a whole lot. They're just kind of there to ask questions and just be there, really. But Sai and Sabra, they get a lot of thought put into them in this episode. We get a little bit of backstory on them, but not a lot, mainly because of the whole, they don't have their memories sort of thing. But just generally as characters, they're interesting, they're acted well, and yeah, just they have their purposes, of course. Saber being a what do they call her? Augmented human, I think is what they called her. Or was that? She can shapeshift, basically. She can turn into other people by touching them. She like turns into them, basically. That gets utilized quite well in a couple of places. And then you've got Sai, who's maybe he was the one that you call an augmented human. I can't remember. He's kind of like a cyborg, really. He's got a chip in his head, and that gets used. His technical ability, his kind of electrical abilities comes into play as well. And yeah, just generally both characters, only having two main guest characters, I think is really good. It works here well. They have a good purpose, and yeah, they're enjoyable and likable characters throughout. The Doctor is the architect was a big revelation at the end. Turns out the Doctor was the one that set this whole thing up in the first place. I love the, when they did the little kind of montage of the Doctor setting all these things up. I love that montage. It's just a really interesting concept and a bit of a twist at the end there. I mean, maybe some people were thinking it, but I think either way, it's a good twist. The Doctor was the architect the whole time. I love that moment when he's like, who is one person that I hate? Because he's like, I hate this architect. I hate what he's doing. Who's the one person that I hate more than anyone? Myself. And that's perfect of the Doctor, especially Capaldi's Doctor. So yeah, I love that the Doctor was the architect. I thought that was a great twist. And then finally for the good, it was a mission to rescue the Teller all along. So basically the Teller turns out, well, because they say that it's the last of its species, but it turns out that it isn't. There's at least one more. There's two of this species, but they've locked this other one away. I don't know why. I don't know. I think they were using the Teller by they lock this one away, they keep it alive, but now the Teller's gonna work for us. But all in all, the Teller was distraught by this whole thing, and all it wanted to do is just get its friend back and leave and go to another planet, and that's what the Doctor ends up doing. And we found out that the Doctor's whole reason, the Doctor and Clara's reason for robbing this bank was to save the Teller. That was the whole idea behind it. That's why the Doctor came up with this in the first place. And I think that's really cool how it didn't end up being a bank heist in the end. It ended up being a rescue mission. And I think it's just such a cool twist. It's really, really well done. And yeah, I love the whole moment where the Doctor realizes what he's doing, why he's here, what's going on. It's just such a good scene, and yeah, really good plot for the episode. So on to the bad. There are a couple of things to talk about. First of all, the Doctor doesn't seem to care about Sabra's death. Once again, this is the Doctor being a bit of a dick thing, but Sabra dies, and at this point, he thinks she's dead. Turns out she isn't. These little capsule things are actually teleporters, but at this point, he thinks she's dead, and he just doesn't seem to really care. He's like, she died, we've got to carry on with what we're doing. Which, yes, is a mentality you've kind of got to get into in some places. If you're on a mission to do something, someone's death, if you just fail and give up and be like, oh, well, I'm done, then that person died for nothing. But at the same time, it's just the way that he comes across with it that I really don't like. And I know that's kind of the arc of this Doctor throughout this series, but yeah, I did feel like it was a little bit too un-doctory in a lot of ways. The Doctor usually either gets really sad when someone dies, or he just feels super, super guilty, whereas here, didn't really seem to be either. He just kind of was like, or he gets like angry. Here it just kind of seemed like, alright, well, she's dead, we've got to carry on with what we're doing. And it just doesn't really feel very Doctor-like to me. And then the other thing, the naked Tellers look pretty weird. So I think the Tellers in design, when they're in the kind of red, almost prison-like attire, they look really cool. But when it shows them CGI'd, well, I don't know if it's CGI'd or a costume, to be honest, running naked in the distance, it looks terrible. It looks so stupid. And yeah, it's unfortunate really, because like I said, they look really good other than that moment. So a rating for Time Heist. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10, which might be a high rating for some people. I really like this episode. I like it a lot more than I used to. I used to always like this story, but I'd probably have given it like a 7.5, maybe an 8. But no, after watching this and the couple of issues I have with it, An 8.5 is what it's going to be. It's another very, very underrated episode in my opinion. I can see why some people maybe wouldn't like it, but generally I like it, and honestly I'm really looking forward to watching the rest of Series 8 because I have a feeling I'm going to like Series 8 more than I used to after doing these reviews. I mean, there's definitely a couple of duds in there that I'm pretty certain I'll still think are duds. But yeah, this one, 8.5 out of 10 for Time Heist. It's very enjoyable. So let's get on to see what episode we'll be reviewing next time. Alright, so we've got the TARDIS here. I've got it here. I'm going to try and do this quickly because I've got to make dinner before my girlfriend gets home. Let's dive into here. Go around. What are we going to have? Our next review is going to be The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit. I am happy with that because that is one of my favourite David Tennant stories. I can tell you right now it's going to be another 10 out of 10. That's funny because the two Tennant stories that we're going to have done so far, both pretty much 10 out of 10s. So yeah, Impossible Planet Satan Pit, definitely looking forward to that for a Series 2 episode. So that'll be the next new series review in a few weeks' time. So, thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, link is in the description below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.